Perry, and I'm 28 years old. This event actually has this huge backstory behind it. I come from a complicated family, to say the least, but this incident will revolve around my pathetic excuse of a father, and I'm only speaking about this because I need to rant about everything that happened somewhere. My dad had married my mom when they were only 19. You see, my mom got pregnant with me then. They were supposed to be a casual fling only, but well, that couldn't happen anymore. My dad had initially wanted to leave, but his parents threatened to cut him off if he abandoned his child. So you can imagine the mindset with which my dad was entering into parenthood. My mom came from a religious family, so they got married pretty quickly. When I was born, my dad was barely around. All of my earliest memories were with my mom itself. I remember hearing them fight a lot. Mom would always be crying while my dad yelled at her. He used to tell her that he was miserable all because of her. I remember not liking him for a long while. Even though there was a lot of negativity in my house, my mom made sure to shield me from it all to the best of her abilities. My mom was diagnosed with late-stage cancer when I was 6, and she was gone within a year. Of course, I was devastated. I would cry and scream for her, and that only seemed to get my dad even angrier. He never fully abandoned me, but I was almost always at my grandparents' place. A year after my mom passed away, Dad got married to my stepmom, Stacy. Stacy had 3 children of her own. Around the same time, Dad's business had started to take off. He was making enough money to buy a mansion-sized house for all of us to live in. But all of that meant nothing much to me because it was all just hell. Stacy hated me. She actively tried to make my life hell. She always insisted that I call her mom, even though I told her that she was never going to be my mom. Dad also took her side, and I was often grounded for weeks because I refused to call her mom. I remember one time Dad and Stacy cornered me when I was 13 years old and asked me to let Stacy adopt me. Perry, we have something important to discuss with you. I want to adopt you as my child too. No, I told you, you're not my mom, and you won't ever be. I do not remember saying that I'm asking you. That's unfair. You barely gave me time to process Mom's death to begin with. You brought a whole new woman into my life and you expected me to call her Mom from the start? I don't want another mom. I had the best one. Get over it, Perry. It happened years ago. What was so perfect about your stupid mother anyway? All she did was make my life miserable. At least she was there for me. All you ever did was make her cry. Perry, this is no way to speak to your father. Whatever. I'm going to my room. Things only got worse from there. Dad stopped looking my way entirely. He refused to have a conversation with me unless it was to yell at me for something Stacy or her kids complained about. I tried to have at least some form of a relationship with him, but he made it explicitly clear that he disliked me. And Stacy didn't make things better for me. She kept telling me that I was the black sheep of the family because I refused to let go of my mom. She told me that I was a painful reminder of her to my dad, and that if I just gave in, my life would be easier. Of course, I never listened to a word of what she said. When both of them realized what they wanted was never going to happen, they resorted to ignoring everything regarding me. I was left alone to fend for myself. By this time, I was around 14. I was given a monthly allowance to survive on, and that was about it. I wanted to run away from home, but my grandparents on both sides had passed away, and I had no contact with any other family member. While I struggled, my step-siblings lived lavish lives. There was not a thing they didn't get, regardless of whether they asked for it or not. They had all the latest gadgets and all the best things in life. They went to these expensive private schools and had an allowance that was at least 3 times more than mine. This only made me angrier because these kids were younger than me. What had I done that was so wrong? I was still my father's daughter. I tried to talk to him about it, but he wouldn't even engage me. He would walk past me like I didn't exist. Meanwhile, Stacy would smirk at me and offer fake sympathy. When I turned 16, my monthly allowance stopped. I was told to get a job and sustain myself that way. Of course, I was exhausted every single day. Juggling school and work was tiring, but no one really cared. The only solace I had was my best friend and the thought that once I turned 18, I would have access to the trust fund my mom set up for me. My mom came from a pretty wealthy family. As soon as she found out she was pregnant, she set up a trust fund in my name. When my grandparents passed away, my inheritance was put into the trust fund. Would I have liked the money at that point itself? Yeah, but life was not going to be easy that way. I think my breaking point was when I was 17. I had already been supporting myself because my dad spent everything he earned on his stepkids. I had begun to find money missing from my wallet. Initially, it was only small amounts, but then it started to get bigger. Of course, I freaked out, but I couldn't really point fingers at anyone because I had no proof of anything. Of course, I didn't rule out the possibility that I was misplacing my money. So I started saving all my bills and keeping accounts of every purchase I made. When I still found money disappearing, I decided to keep all my money in my account itself. I figured it would be tiring to keep having to withdraw money whenever I needed cash, but as long as I wasn't losing money, it didn't matter. And then the money started disappearing from my account. I was furious. I knew for sure that I wasn't the one who was spending it. I went through my transactions online and found out that money had been transferred from my account to my stepsister's account. I saw red at that point. I confronted my stepmom about it because I knew that talking to my stepsister would do nothing. Your daughter has been stealing money from me. You better put her in her place. Stealing? Oh, honey, I doubt that she would steal from you. Well, look here. These are my bank statements, and they clearly show that money has been sent from my account to hers. Maybe you sent her the money because she asked you to? I know I didn't. She never even asked me. Look, why don't you just put this behind you, yeah? She's your sister after all. She must have needed a little money. How can I put this behind me? I'm the one responsible for myself. There's never enough money for my needs. So when your daughter steals from me, how do I continue to survive? Stop being dramatic. All she took was $40. She didn't only take $40. She's been stealing from me for months now. I've been struggling for a while now, but none of you guys seem to care. You know what? I'll stop being dramatic when you pay me back the $300 she took from me. How could you be so selfish? It's your sister. She's not. Even if she was, any reasonable parent would have reimbursed what she took from me. Oh, so you think I'm being unreasonable? Yes, obviously. Wait till your dad hears about this. I groaned because I knew where that was going to go. But at that point, I had given up hope. I knew that whatever my dad heard from his lovely wife was going to trump everything I said. I knew at that moment that I couldn't go on living that way. I began packing all my things while I waited for my dad to come back home from work. The only reason I didn't leave immediately was because I had hoped that he would listen to me. I wanted to give him one last chance. But since there was a large possibility that he would ignore everything I said, I made arrangements for my stay at my best friend's place. Her parents were more than happy to help me out. I only had a few more months until I turned 18. Once I turned 18, I would have been able to get my own place. I had enough saved up for at least a small deposit, and my best friend's parents also offered to help, so I knew that everything would turn out all right for me regardless of what my dad said. That evening, I heard my dad walk into the house and I heard Stacy talking to him. While she was talking to him, my stepsister, who had been the one who was stealing from me, peeked into my room and smirked at me. She told me that I had made a big mistake by telling her mom about what she had been doing. She planned to make my life hell, so she wished me all the luck in the world. She left before I could get a single word out. I knew then and there that I wanted to get out for sure. There was no way that I was going to be staying in that house anymore because no one, and I mean no one, would listen to anything I said. My dad would never even raise his voice against his stepkids, and Stacy thinks they're just little angels. Just as I was about to get ready to leave, I heard my dad angrily walking up the stairs. I quickly stuffed away my packed things under my bed and sat on my bed while trying to look like I was simply reading a book. My heart raced with anxiety as I waited for my dad to come in and start yelling at me. "You called your mom unreasonable, Perry? That is beyond disrespectful. Did she tell you why I called her unreasonable? Just because one of your sisters took some money from you isn't a good enough reason. She didn't take money from me. She stole it from me." Oh, wow. So first you're disrespectful to your mom, and now you're just outright lying to me. I'm not lying. I have proof. I don't care. That proof is probably fake anyway. You'll really do anything so you can get attention, won't you? Why would I purposely lose money to get attention? So you can get money from us, obviously. Why do I have to get money from you, when as your daughter it's your duty to provide for me? Don't backtalk me. You're grounded for a month. But not a single word. You're such a disappointment. With that went my plan of running away. Well, at least for a month. My dad walked out of my room with my laptop and my phone. I had no other option but to wait until I was not grounded anymore. Of course, I felt super sad and angry. I was upset that my dad had always chosen his other family over me. At that moment, I wished that I had my mom more than anything. I spent the next few days just crying. That month was hell for me. My stepsister kept up with her word and actually made my life hell. She kept pulling these pranks on me that always involved me getting hurt or embarrassed in some way. Like she once added Nair to my shampoo, and thankfully I figured something was off with the way she was insistent on me washing my hair that day. Another time she spilled oil on the kitchen floor and screamed, knowing that I would rush to her. I ended up slipping and falling pretty hard. She never got scolded because they were always just pranks. If anything, that got laughs from my dad and Stacy. They always applauded her for her genius pranks. By the end of the month, I was so ready to leave the place behind me. I couldn't even call that place home because I only ever felt uncomfortable there. On the day that I got my phone and laptop back, I waited until everyone in the house fell asleep to text my best friend. She came and picked me up. I managed to sneak out of the house without making a single sound, and in that moment, I had never felt freer and more excited for the future. From then on, my life only took a turn for the better. My best friend's parents gave me a room in their house and treated me like I was their own child. My money was mine to keep because they took care of my every need. I was truly blessed to have such kind people in my life. As soon as I turned 18, I was given access to the trust fund my mom had set up for me. It had more than enough money to get me through college and take care of me for a little while after I graduated as well. I got into my dream college and I moved states to attend it. I was a stellar student and I worked on the side too. I knew that I had more than enough money to live well, but I didn't want to solely depend on the trust fund. I worked at a local coffee shop to live well. I was able to rent a small apartment and I finally felt free and alive. I barely heard anything from my dad. I got one text from him asking me where I was the morning after I left. I simply told him I was safe and that was the end of all conversation between him and me. Yeah, it hurt like crazy that he never bothered to check on how I was doing. I still followed him on social media and I saw pictures of all the places he and his family went to every other month or so. For a while, I even wondered if I was the one who had been holding them back for so long. Was I the one making them unhappy? But then the more I thought about it, the more I realized how messed up it was that my dad blatantly ignored me constantly. It was messed up how he would treat his family better than me while I lived with him. I knew I couldn't stay silent like that for too long. I knew that I wanted to get back at him in whatever little way I could. I got a bunch of my friends to leave negative reviews on my dad's products on every site possible. My dad worked as an app developer and in general with data development. I knew just how important reviews were for his business. Anyway, over my college years, I managed to make a lot of friends and acquaintances. Each one of them negatively rated my dad's stuff for a while using different accounts. Eventually, though, I forgot about it. I guess I felt like I had done enough damage as it was. Not to mention, I wasn't seeing any actual results and it felt like I was just hating into a void, so I let it go. About 6 years after I moved out, I was in a much better place. I had a well-paying job after graduating from university with honors. I was able to rent a better place and even managed to get myself into a good relationship. I was living a great life. And then my dad turned up at my door. It was a regular weekend when I heard a knock at the door. I went to check the security camera and I was shocked to see my dad standing there waiting to be buzzed in. I contemplated letting him in. On one hand, I wanted nothing to do with him any longer. On the other hand, I was way too curious to find out why he suddenly wanted to meet. I decided to let him in. "Hey, honey." "Honey? What's with the sudden sweetness?" "Sudden? I've always been this way with you." "Oh, just cut it out already." "Why are you always so mean? This is why I could never bond with you." "You can't be serious. You went 5 years without talking to me because I'm mean? If that's what you've come to talk to me about, you can leave." No, that's not it. I needed to talk to you about something really important." "Well, what is it?" "I see that you're living a very good life now. Is it all your mother's money?" "Why? Do you only think I'm capable of being successful because of my mom's money?" "Well, no, but I'm just wondering." "At least I had one parent that cared about me." "Oh, don't be like that, Perry." "Just tell me what you came here to tell me. The more I listen to you talk, the angrier I get." It was true. I really did begin to feel immense amounts of rage the more he stood in my living room and talked. Somehow he did not feel remorseful at all. He was purposely saying things that he knew would irritate me. The only reason I let him stay is because I was too damn curious to find out what it was that he wanted to tell me. Dad shuffled around on his feet and looked around my apartment for a minute, so I figured he would much rather have this conversation while sitting down. I led him to the couch and brought him a glass of water. "Okay, you're comfortable now. Spill." "So, I'm in trouble right now." "Trouble? What do you mean?" "My company went under." "Do you mean that you've had to shut it down?" "Yeah, it's been rough. I mean, everything I built has just come crashing down so hard." "How did it happen?" "I just made a bunch of terrible business decisions because I had a lot of negative reviews coming in for a long while. Those decisions only led to a loss of business. I had to close it down before I lost even more money." "How's Stacy and her kids?" "About that. They left me." "Left? Why? Weren't you like the best thing that happened to them?" "Apparently they were only there for the money. Stacy left me the day my company shut down, so it was like a double kill for me." "So what are you going to do now?" "Well, I was thinking that since you had all your mom's money still with you, or at least a good portion of it, you should help me out." "Should? Why should I do anything for you?" "Because you have money and I'm your dad." "Well, you're not my dad. You haven't been my dad for years. As soon as you married Stacy, you stopped being my dad." "How can you say that?" "You ignored me for years. You didn't even provide for me. You had so much money and barely any of it went towards me. You deserve everything coming your way." "I didn't raise you to be so heartless." "That's about the only thing you actually taught me. Get out of my house." I could tell that he was hurt by the way I was treating him. But then again, the air of importance he walked in with made me want to punch him. And for him to just demand that I fork out money and help him out was beyond anything that I had even expected him to do. Dad tried to protest, but I told him the same advice he gave me every time I came to him for help. This is your problem, not mine. This is life. Get used to it. I could see that Dad wanted to tear his hair out of his scalp in frustration, and that sight truly made me feel great. I couldn't believe that the little thing I did could have had such a large impact. I'm not even kidding when I say that I had actually forgotten about it, and even about him for a while. Seeing him again reignited all the hatred and anger I felt towards him. Disowning him as my father only made things sweeter for me. Finally, I got to do to him what he did to me for nearly all my life. Dad did end up leaving shortly after that. It took a while for me to calm down from that experience, but I managed to continue living my life normally. Dad kept trying to text and call me. He would keep switching between begging me to help him and calling me a selfish, ignorant brat who had no values. Either way, I never paid him much attention. I learned over time that he had been bumming off a few family members. He's been struggling while Stacy actually was living her life. She managed to find another man to hook up to, and my dad was very, very salty about that. His social media was filled with nothing but hate towards her. Several family members came forward and asked me to take my dad in, but I blatantly refused. I explained my situation to them, and while some of them agreed with me, most of them told me to let everything go because he was family. I reminded them that he was their family too, so they were free to help him out. Life since then has been good once again. I received a promotion and I'll be getting married next year. I know I struggled a lot, but I'm glad that I had at least one parent who looked out for me enough that I was able to finally make it in life. Hello, my name's Dee Dee and I'm a 60-year-old woman. My husband died about 5 years ago, but I'm still a working woman. I have 5 kids, 4 of which live in different states all across the country. They each have their own families, and I'm beyond blessed to have such a big family. One of my kids, Jack, still lives in our hometown. He attended the community college here, which is where he met his wife, Riley. I liked her, but I didn't think my opinion mattered either way as long as Jack was happy. The two of them got married pretty soon and then pursued further education together in their respective fields. When they got good jobs and earned enough, they decided to have a child. I was excited because that meant I had one more grandchild to spoil. But Riley was weird about me meeting my grandchild, Jason. She was very particular about when I could visit and how long. It was understandable in the first year of Jason being born, but even when he was 6, that was odd. But I let it go because every family functioned differently. Before I knew it, though, 12 years had passed. Because of the limited amount of interaction I was allowed to have with Jason, I didn't really get to develop a strong bond with him. All I did know was that we both shared a genuine love for books. So whenever I did go over, I made sure to buy him some books I knew he'd like. One day, I was at work when I got a call from Jason. Now, that was odd for various reasons, the most prominent reason being that Jason and I barely spoke outside of family gatherings. I tried my best to connect with him the way that I had done with my other grandchildren, but he seemed way too distant. "Grandma, are you free to talk?" "Yes, honey. Any time for you. Tell me, is everything okay?" No. Why are you crying? Did you get hurt? Is there anybody at home who can help you?" "Mom and Dad are here, but do you need me to call them for you?" "No, I called you because I needed your help." "My help? What could I help you with, darling?" "I need you to save me." "Jason, what are you talking about?" "Don't laugh, Grandma." I'm sorry, honey. That was not what I was expecting you to say. I'm not kidding. If you aren't going to help me, I'll find a different way. No, hold on. I'm sorry for laughing. Now, why don't you explain what you meant? I need you to save me from my devil mother. Devil mother? Honey, what do you mean? She's not as sweet and nice as she acts. She's really mean to me when no one's around, and she keeps... Oh no, I hear someone coming up the stairs. I have to go. Please don't tell them that I've called. Bye. I was confused and concerned. As far as I knew, Riley was one of the sweetest people I knew. How could Jason call her a devil? I didn't believe him at the time because I figured that it was just him trying to get back at Riley. After all, she probably grounded him for something he had done. As far as I knew from what both Riley and Jack had told me, Jason had been a pretty mischievous child. But I had this nagging feeling in my gut that Jason was not joking around. As I went home that day, I couldn't stop thinking about the call. It was very out of character for Jason to do that. I slept on it for a couple of days, but I still couldn't rid myself of the feeling that something was up. So I decided to make an impulse purchase and ordered a hidden camera. Of course, I felt wrong spying on my son and his family, but I justified it by telling myself that I was only doing that because Jason called me to explicitly ask for my help. If, and hopefully, there was nothing, I could just retrieve the camera. But if there was something, then I'd have to figure out what exactly needed to be done. I hoped that even if there was something happening, a long talk would solve that issue. The camera took a couple of days to arrive, and after it did, I set it up. Thankfully, this was one of those cameras that I got live footage from as well as recorded footage. I could access the footage through an app on my phone, which made it very convenient for me. Once I had set it up and figured out the technicalities of the gauge, I decided to call my son and ask him if I could come over. Hello, sweetie. How's everything? Everything's great, Mom. What about you? It's the same old, same old. Although I was wondering about something and I thought I'd ask you about it. Yeah, of course. Is everything okay? Yes. I was just thinking that we haven't met in a long time and I was wondering if I could just swing by your place one day. Yes, of course, Mom. How about this Sunday? Yes, that works. But shouldn't you maybe check with Riley if that's okay? Lord knows I hated it when your dad made plans without asking me about it. I know Riley would be really happy to have you over. Don't worry, Mom. All right, then I'll be there around 5 o'clock. That works. See you soon. Take care. Even though I was going to Jack's place with ulterior motives, I was actually still excited to go spend time with my son. Considering I never really saw the rest of my family until the holiday season, it felt nice to have one of my children staying in the same town. I tried my best to not intrude because they were living their own lives. The weekend came by pretty quickly. I got ready pretty early on and figured that I should take something over to their place. I went to the grocery store and picked up a nice bottle of wine, and I bought a couple of books for Jason because I knew he loved to read. When I got to my son's house, I was greeted warmly by all three of them. Jason looked at me with so much relief that I got concerned again. He hadn't tried to contact me after that first phone call, so I had no way of knowing what he was going to say when he hung up. I spent the next couple of hours just talking to Jack and Riley. We had dinner and drank wine. At some point, Jason went to his room because we were talking about adult things that I bet weren't of interest to him, so I excused myself to go talk to Jason. Riley did try to subtly stop me, but I insisted because I had visited them after a long while, and I didn't think it was right to not spend time with my grandson. Jack stopped Riley from saying whatever he wanted to and told me to go talk to Jason. Once I got to his room, I shut the door behind me. I walked over to him and handed him the books I had gotten him. We talked for a while about the books, a conversation that he had started. He seemed really excited about them, so I let him ramble on about them. I didn't try to bring up what he had mentioned because I wanted him to do it. We moved on to talking about other things like what was going on in our lives. At some point, while he was talking to me about his school and other things, he grabbed one of his notebooks and began to write something in it. He showed it to me and it said, "Mom's listening. Can't talk about anything." I couldn't tell if he was being serious or just paranoid, but I went along with it. We continued our conversation while I wrote my plan in the notebook. I told him that I had brought along a hidden camera with me and asked if I could plant it in his room. He seemed ecstatic and agreed instantly. I shuffled around the room and found a good spot to keep the camera that gave me a good view of the room. I started the recording and checked my phone to make sure that the camera worked. I sat with Jason a little longer until I told him that it was getting late and that I should get going. I did leave my scarf behind so I would have an excuse to come back whenever I needed to. I remember hearing footsteps hurriedly shuffling away from the door after I said that, and it made me wonder if Jason truly was right. I didn't pay much mind to it at that time, and I hugged Jason goodbye. I went back downstairs and said my goodbyes to both Jack and Riley, and then made my way back home. I was pretty exhausted from the night, but I did check the camera when I got back home. I stayed up for an hour to read and kept an eye on the footage just in case something happened. All that had happened was my son walked into Jason's room and asked him what we had talked about. Jason told him about it, and that was that. I fell asleep eventually, and when I woke up the next morning, I didn't check the cameras. I rushed to work, and I only checked the camera when I knew Jason would have been back from school. Once again, nothing much happened, and I was beginning to think that Jason really was lying. I decided to give it just another day, and if I didn't find anything, I would go over when neither Jack or Riley were home, and I'd ask Jason to give me the camera back. But that night, as I kept an eye on the footage while I read, I found out what Jason was trying to tell me. I watched Riley enter the room with a stick in her hand, with Jack trailing behind her. I immediately unmuted the video. I heard Riley ask Jason what he did that entire day. She made him narrate it to her in extreme detail. Whenever he stuttered, she would sharply ask him if he was lying, and if she felt like he was, she had him put his palms out and would deliver 2 to 3 swift raps against his knuckles. I watched in growing horror as the number of times she kept hitting him got more and more frequent. Jason was sobbing and Jack just stood there and watched. I was disappointed and disgusted with what I was watching. I had raised all my kids in a very gentle manner. I barely even yelled at them because I believe that kids are smarter than we think. While we may not be able to reason with them, they are capable of understanding when you explain things to them. I didn't understand why Jack was just standing there and letting his son get hit for something so unnecessary. I wanted to rush over to their place and stop them. But what would I have said to them? They would have found it odd that I happened to be back just a day after I was already there. I remembered that I had left my scarf there, but I knew that I could have used that excuse in that moment because I needed that as an excuse to meet with Jason. But I could do one thing. I picked up my phone and called Jack. "Hey, Mom, is everything okay?" "Yes, no worries. I hope I'm not disturbing you." No, Riley and I were just saying goodnight to Jason." "Ah, all right then. I just wanted to tell you that I think I left my scarf in Jason's room last night. I remember setting it down there, and then like a klutz, I forgot it there. Do you think I could swing by tomorrow and pick it up?" "Why don't I just come over and drop it off for you right now?" "No, I'm way too tired and I'm going to fall asleep before you even get here. I had a long day at work and I'm barely even holding up the phone right now." "All right then, why don't you swing by in the evening?" I can't do that. I'm meeting up with a couple of my friends for game night tomorrow. Well, Riley and I won't be back till evening. Why don't you swing by the day after? I need that scarf for tomorrow. We're having a themed get-together of sorts. Well, you could swing by in the afternoon. Jason will be home. Oh, lovely. I'll be there around 2. Good night, Mom. My heart raced as I came up with lies on the spot. At least my call distracted Jack and Riley enough for them to discuss whatever I had said to Jack instead of focusing on hitting Jason. But before they left Jason's room, Riley declared that Jason would not be getting any dinner or any other meals until dinner the next day. I was appalled. I wished I didn't believe that Riley and Jack would follow through, but from what I saw, I knew that wouldn't be the case. The next day, I took off from work and mentally prepared myself for the conversation that I was going to have with Jason. I was sure that he would not want to continue living there, but I still needed to hear him say that. Before I went over to Jack's place, I made sure to pick up some food for the both of us. When I got there, Jason looked like he was about to faint at any minute. He looked weak, and he was very lethargic. Riley really did make him not eat anything. I quickly gave him his food and watched as he devoured it. I felt so sorry for him, and I knew that I wanted to make things better for him. When he was done eating, I spoke to him. "Did you see everything that happened?" "Yes, darling, and I'm so sorry for laughing at you earlier. I had no idea." "No, it's okay. I know Mom seems like the nicest person, but has she always been this way?" "The beating only started recently, but the starving has been going on for a while. And I just need to get a clearer understanding. So could you tell me why Jack isn't doing anything?" "He's too scared of Mom. He just follows her everywhere and listens to everything she says. Everything she wants, she gets." "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry that you've been dealing with this for a while. But I am curious. Why didn't you eat anything at school?" "Mom didn't send me to school. On days that she doesn't let me eat, I stay home. Mom measures how much of each food is there in the house, and if it's even 1 gram off, when she gets back, I get punished more." "So she's starving you and jeopardizing your education?" "I'm definitely going to do my best to help you out, okay? I need you to tell me right now if you would like to come live with me. I'll take care of everything you need, and I'll keep you away from Mom and Dad." "Of course, Grandma. Anywhere away from here will be great. I promise to only be good. Just please, take me away from here." "I promise I will, darling. But it will take some time. Do you think you can handle staying here for a little while longer?" "Yeah, I can. I've been living here for 12 years, so I can wait a little more." I carefully took away all the wrappers and made sure to leave no trace of any food there. I didn't want Riley to make things worse for Jason. I then helped Jason clean up any crumbs and then checked and double-checked to make sure we left the place exactly as it had been. I went back home and made sure to call Jack to let him know that I had gotten my scarf back and thanked him for being cooperative. Next, I contacted a good friend of mine who worked with family law. I explained my situation to him, and he told me that it would be hard and long to fight for custody of Jason. He also informed me that while I may be able to get custody, the judge may only give me a temporary one, and in that time, Riley could easily change up her behavior and get back her custody of Jason. I knew that getting her to court and trying to fight for custody was definitely not going to work in my favor, especially with what little evidence I had. But I did know one thing. I could use the evidence I did have to get her to make me Jason's legal guardian. You see, Riley worked as a counselor at one of the many middle schools in our district. I was sure that she wouldn't want her abusing her child to reach anywhere and take away her current job and future job prospects. I kept careful watch over the footage the next few days as I gathered all my evidence and sorted the paperwork for a transfer of guardianship. I waited until it was the weekend to go over to Jack's without any notice. When Jack opened the door, he seemed surprised to see me there. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "I need to talk to you and Riley." I don't think now's a good time." "Why? What's going on?" "Just family stuff. Hold on. How come you're suddenly over so frequently?" "Can't I visit my son? I didn't think I needed to have any special permission to do that." "No, I didn't mean it like that. It's just that you've taken a sudden interest in us this week, and it's weird because you rarely ever dropped by before." "It isn't really weird. I only came over today because I have something seriously important that I need to talk about with the two of you." "I don't think—" "What's that sound?" I knew that Riley was doing something to Jason because of how evasive Jack was being. But when I heard what sounded like loud crying coming from Jason's room, I pushed Jack aside and walked into the house. There was no way I was not going to protect him when I was standing right there. I ran, well, more like speed walking, considering I'm not very young, to Jason's room and burst the door open, only to see Jason sobbing as he clutched his face. Riley was breathing hard as she looked at him with so much malice that I shivered. I ran over to Jason and asked him if he was all right. He just hugged me tight and wailed into my ears. Riley humphed and walked away. When Jason calmed down, I took a good look at him and noticed that his cheek was red and swelling up. His knuckles were bleeding, and there were welts on his arms, all from the stick. I felt a kind of rage in me that I had never felt before. What kind of a monster do you have to be to hit a child so hard? Nothing the child did deserved that level of treatment in any case. I went downstairs to the kitchen and grabbed a bag of frozen veggies and went back upstairs to give it to Jason so he could use it to help reduce the swelling in his cheeks. Once I had made sure that he was okay, I told him that I would be taking him to my place that day and asked him to pack as many of his things as he could. With that, I walked back down to talk to both of them. Riley looked mad and Jack looked like he wanted to be anywhere but there. "How dare you just barge into our home that way?" "Isn't it a good thing that I did? You are hitting your child for crying out loud." "What I do in my family is none of your business. Your child is my grandson, and he is a part of my family too. You're hurting him, and I can't let that go on." "He may be your grandson, but you don't live with him. You don't know what a brat he is. I'm just disciplining him." "Who cares if he's a brat? He's a child, and there are so many other ways to go about disciplining a child other than hitting them. I mean, you, of all people, should know this. Listen, I don't believe in any of that gentle parenting crap. Leave me and my family alone. You got it?" "I'm afraid I can't do that." "What do you mean?" I handed Riley the papers that she needed to sign to transfer guardianship rights to me. Both she and Jack stared at the paper for a long minute before looking at me in utter confusion. I explained to both of them that they both had to sign the papers or I would be releasing the proof I had of them hitting Jason. "What do you mean by proof?" "I set up a hidden camera in Jason's room last week and I have all the proof I need. Neither of your jobs will appreciate what you guys do, especially yours, Riley. If you want to have any income at all, I suggest that you sign the papers." "You were spying on us? That's a gross violation of our privacy." "Don't get me wrong, but I was only acting on information that I had. I needed to make sure Jason was doing all right." "Mom, don't do this to us. Give us another chance. I'll make sure it doesn't happen again." "I don't want to hear any of it. I'm very disappointed in you, Jack. I raised you to be better than this. You're just as disgusting as Riley, as if not more. I'm taking Jason with me and I expect the papers to be signed after. If you don't, you know what will happen." I knew that neither of them wanted to play with that kind of risk, so they didn't put up a fight when Jason and I walked out. I took Jason to go get dinner and ice cream, and I tried my best to comfort him. I provided him with a safe space to share his feelings and to just exist without the fear of one tiny action causing havoc. In the weeks that followed, I was granted legal guardianship of Jason. Riley and Jack cited that they planned to move to a different state and didn't want to disrupt Jason's education as a reason for transferring for guardianship. The two of them did end up moving, which proved to be a big sigh of relief for me. Jason is doing much better now, and he seems a lot happier. Knowing that he won't ever run into his parents for a long while has brought about a better side to him. He's one of the kindest and sweetest kids I know. He thanks me every day for what I did for him, and I intend to keep my promise to always protect him for the rest of my life. Thank you for listening. Hello, my name's Pedro, and I'm a 32-year-old woman. Today I want to tell you about a life-changing event in my life. But before that, I need to introduce you to my younger sister, Sunny. I have two other sisters, and while the three of us get along really well, we don't share the same bond with her. Sunny was the golden child that my parents spoiled senselessly. There was never a request of hers that was denied. In the meantime, my sister and I had to fight for what we wanted. That did not create the healthiest dynamic in our family. Sunny was especially rude towards me because I had everything she wanted. Effortless good looks, good grades, and I was able to do any task really well regardless of my experience in it. She essentially made my life hell in every possible way, be it by actually bullying or ruining my relationship with my parents. So it came as no surprise for me to move out as soon as I turned 18. It was in college that I met my now ex-husband Jasper. He was in his third year of university when I was a freshman. I don't exactly remember how we got to talking, but I do remember that when we did, we clicked really well. From then on, we began dating. After I graduated from college, we decided to move in together. Around this time, I opened up to Jasper and told him about my complicated relationship with my sister and the reason why I was not too keen on ever going back home or introducing him to my family. Jasper was supportive and understanding, and I was glad for that. We waited until we both had good, stable jobs before tying the knot. We invited both our families to celebrate with us. I invited mine out of pure obligation, but I hoped really hard that they would not cause any scenes, and thankfully, everything went off well. Around a year into our being married, Jasper told me that he wanted to have kids. So I was thinking, yes, I kind of want to have kids with you. Kids as in plural? I mean, yeah. Think of how cute it would be to have a couple of mini versions of us running around her. All I'm thinking about is the financial strain that would put on us and the lack of sleep we'll have. Wait, are you saying that you don't want to have kids? Jasper, I've never wanted to have kids. I grew up in a house full of kids that I practically brought up, one of whom hated me for no reason. I'm terrified of being a parent. But this will be different. This time you'll have me, and you won't be a kid yourself. I promise that I'll be there with you the entire time. I don't, Jasper. It just seems like a lot. Why can't we just enjoy our time together alone? It would be way more fulfilling to see our love culminate into something that actually exists, don't you think? Fine, we can have one kid, but we need to be fully financially stable before that happens. Of course! You've made the right choice. You'll never regret it, I promise. With that, Jasper and I waited another 1.5 years before starting to try for a child. I got pregnant fairly fast. I still remember the look of absolute joy on Jasper's face when I told him that I was pregnant. It was a wonderful time. But then things started to get a little weird. Jasper was always very controlling about everything, right from what I ate to when I showered. I mean, yes, he took care of me really well, but at the same time, he was unlike the man that I had fallen in love with. He didn't smile or laugh much anymore. Everything felt dull. No matter how many times I tried to talk to Jasper, he just never spoke to me about it. About 3 months into my pregnancy, I became aware of how tight our budget had suddenly gotten. Jasper used to spend money lavishly without any hesitation, and then suddenly he declared a budget, and we had to stick to it. He would get cranky if I asked him to get me certain foods that I was craving because they were going out of budget. Initially, I just thought it was about him being worried that raising a child would be way more expensive than we thought. But then I realized that technically, we had planned way ahead for this. We had done the proper analysis of our financial situations and only started a family when we were both more than financially stable enough. There was literally no need for Jasper to be so uptight about our spending. I remember laying in bed for nights just thinking about Jasper's odd behavior. One particular night while Jasper was away on some weekend business trip, I was stuck with a sudden thought. What if Jasper was spending money somewhere else without telling me? At first, I felt bad for thinking that way about him, but then the more I thought about it, the more his behavior began to make sense. So even though I hated snooping through his things, I logged into his bank account through my phone. As I looked through the transactions, I realized that my hunch was right. He was spending hundreds of dollars somewhere else, and all those times were when he would mysteriously disappear for work purposes. I knew they were not work-related because all these transactions were being made in places in our town. There was one particular transaction that made my heart drop. In fact, this transaction was a repeated one about 3 times a week. It was at this motel not too far from our house. I couldn't think of one good reason for Jasper to visit a motel 3 times a week. I hated the feeling of dread that took over me and the anxiety that filled me. But I knew that I had to get to the bottom of his weird behavior and excessive spending. When Jasper got home from his business trip, I continued behaving as if nothing was wrong. The next time he disappeared, I followed him. I went to the motel and asked the receptionist if a man named Jasper had booked a room. The man was uninterested enough to hand me the logbook. I flipped through the page and found Jasper's name. He had already checked in. I asked the receptionist if I could have a copy of the key card, considering Jasper was my husband. The man gave me a once-over and handed me the key card. My heart raced as I walked through the corridors to Jasper's room. I don't know what I was expecting to see, but what I saw was definitely not that. There, in bed, was my husband and my sister. They did not seem to realize that I was there, and I was so shocked that I physically could not move. Eventually, the shock wore off and I cleared my throat to let them know that I was there. When they saw me standing there, they rushed to cover themselves up. "Pero, what are you doing here?" "I don't think you should be the one asking questions right now. What are you doing?" "What does it look like, Pero?" "Sonny." "Oh, get over it. You knew that she would find out one day anyway. Who cares that she found out now?" Are you serious right now? How long has this been going on? A couple of months. By a couple of months, do you mean around the time I got pregnant with your child? Yeah, honestly, that was a bit of a shocker, but I managed to get Jasper to stop freaking out. What do you mean by freaking out? Jasper, you were the one that wanted this kid. I know, and I'm sorry. Sorry will not cut it. And as for you, Sonny, you're dead to me. I never want to see your face ever again. Listen, there's no need to be so butthurt about this. I get that you're pregnant and your hormones are going crazy, but that's no reason to behave like you have a stick up your butt. That's enough, Sonny. Honey, I'm so sorry that I did this. Can we still work things out? Just leave me alone for a while. I left them there in that room and made my way back to my car. I felt horrible, but I knew that I couldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me cry. When I finally got into my car, I let myself sob. I didn't understand why Jasper would do something like that, especially because he knew about my complicated relationship with Sonny. Sonny's words were supposed to be ineffective, but somehow they hurt even more. The fact that she showed no remorse and thought that I was overreacting because I was pregnant made me feel so angry. A part of me wanted to go back in and lash out at them, but I knew better than to do that. Instead, I made my way over to my best friend Tia's house. When I got there, I collapsed into sobs in Tia's arms. She was obviously alarmed because she had assumed that something went wrong with my pregnancy. But through my sobs, I managed to tell her that it was not related to that, but it was something that was possibly worse for me. She then let me cry for a long while before finally asking me what happened after I calmed down. What's wrong? What happened? So I found a bunch of transactions on Jasper's card that did seem familiar, and they kind of had a routine, as in it was a transaction at the same place 3 days a week. Oh, was it for food? I wish. I got curious and found out that he was making payments at the motel near our place. Oh no. Please tell me he was just trying to decompress or something. Oh yeah, he was definitely decompressing with my sister. What? Which one? Please don't tell me it's Sonny. That cheating scumbag. Who the hell does he think he is to do something this bad to you, especially when you're pregnant with his child? That was not even the worst of it. Sonny was so rude. She told me I was behaving all crazy because I was pregnant. Can you believe it? I swear to God, I will punch her one day. But oh my God, how are you doing right now? I really don't know. I feel so crappy and so betrayed. I had told Jasper all about my issues with Sonny, and he still went and cheated on me with her. Did he at least apologize or seem apologetic? Yeah, he did apologize. But at the time, I needed space to process what I had walked into. I don't know what to do. I think you should leave him. But I'm way too scared to raise a child all on my own. I need to have someone there with, or I'll go insane. That's fair. But I know for a fact that you will not end up being able to forget him cheating, and that will only make you hate him even more as time goes by. I know, but I just need someone there for the first year. Once I have the hang of it, I will definitely leave him. Well, all right. I'll be standing right behind you no matter what decision you take. Just remember that no matter what happens, I will be here for you, and you will not be alone. Thanks, Tia. I really needed that. Tia gave me the space and time to process all my feelings. I was able to figure out what my true decision was, and I decided to stick with the plan I had given Tia. I would stay with Jasper for a year and then leave him. It hurt me to think that I was going to leave the love of my life. But what hurt even more is that the love of my life betrayed me in such a horrible manner. I went back home after 2 days with Tia. When I got there, Jasper was sitting on the couch. I did not acknowledge him, but he did follow me around for a while and kept trying to ensure that I was feeling okay. For a split second, it felt like I had my husband back, but whenever I looked at his face, all I saw were images of him and my sister in the cheap motel bed, and that was an image that was never going to leave my mind. Eventually, we settled into a rhythm. We barely spoke, but there was a silent understanding that we were going to slowly work things out between us, or so I thought. The next 2 months flew by pretty quickly. Jasper had been extra caring about me as I drew closer to my due date. He seemed excited to meet his child, and while I also shared that feeling, I also knew that pretty soon I would have to leave him. What I did not expect was to one day wake up to an empty bed and an empty house. Or at least empty of all Jasper's things. I was shocked and confused. I tried to call him, but he did not pick up. I was then panicking because out of the blue, I was left all alone. I hoped Jasper would return, but by the end of the day, it became clear that he had left me. I called Tia over and she stayed with me while I once again processed all the intense emotions that I was feeling. It did not help that the baby was constantly kicking and ruining my sleep schedule. I was a mess through and through. One day, about a week and a half after Jasper left, Tia exclaimed from the couch and ran over to me, almost falling flat on her face in her shock to tell me what she had found out. "Oh my God, Pedal, you are not going to believe this." Whoa, what's going on? I was just scrolling through Facebook and I happened to come across this post by Sunny. Why are you trying to show me a post about Sunny? You know how she's a sensitive topic right now. I know, but this is kind of serious and I'm actually worried about how you'd react to it, but I figured that it would be better for you to find out about it while I'm here rather than when you're alone. You're scaring me. What is it? Tia then turned her phone towards me and there was a picture of Sunny and Jasper kissing. Sunny was dressed in an elegant wedding gown while Jasper was wearing a tux. Sunny captioned the post, "Can't wait to spend forever with my forever." I felt the bile rise up in my throat. How could they? What happened to all of Jasper's care and comfort? Had he been planning to run away and get married to Sunny the entire time that he was taking care of me? Was it just a sick game for him to raise my expectations and then shatter them in the same way over and over again? I don't know how, but I managed to get myself together during the next 2 weeks. Tia was my biggest source of comfort. She helped me with everything, whether it was a physical need or an emotional one. Before I knew it, it was time for me to give birth. I gave birth to a beautiful and healthy baby girl. The moment I held her in my arms, I forgot all about the other pains I had. Nothing made me happier than her. We took our time settling into a new routine with the baby. Tia moved into my place because it was a house and the house was better than an apartment. Together, we battled endless sleepless nights and busy work-filled mornings. Tia was once again a strong shoulder to cry on. Of course, I was still very upset with Jasper and Sunny, but I knew that there was nothing I could do. Tia helped me file for divorce from Jasper, and doing that itself reopened all my wounds. But once again, through sheer willpower and support from Tia, I managed to overcome everything. The years, 7 years to be exact, passed by in the blink of an eye. I got to watch all of my baby girls' firsts, her first rollover, her first laugh, her first steps, her first words, and her first day at school. And with every first I witnessed, I felt myself heal a little more. My daughter was growing into a smart and kind kid who had this infectious smile, and I loved it. I had almost entirely forgotten about Jasper until one day I got a call from an unknown number. Hello? Hey, Pedro, it's Melody, Jasper's mother. Oh, hi, Melody. Is everything okay? Not really. I needed to talk to you about something, and I just managed to find your number. What is it? For the past 7 years, I haven't seen Jasper in person. He told me he had a child and constantly sent me pictures, but for some reason, he never sent me any pictures of you. And I only found out about it a couple of weeks ago. So, he didn't tell you that he cheated on me with my sister when I was 5 months pregnant? That was your sister? Yeah, she's a piece of work too. Look, I just want you to know that I'm on your side all the way. I called to ask if you'd be down to get some revenge. Thanks a lot, but revenge? Why do you want to get revenge on him? I don't necessarily want to get any revenge on him, but I want to help you out. I'm sure these past few years have not been the greatest for you, and I just know that giving Jasper at least an ounce of his own medicine will make you feel better. It has been a really long time, but I'll never not be down to teach Jasper a lesson. Count me in. Great. I've booked my tickets and I'll be arriving there tomorrow morning. Get ready to have a lot of fun. I didn't know how she had so much confidence in me saying yes to her plan because she already had her ticket booked, which honestly made me feel kind of nice. At the same time, learning that he had a child with my sister made me feel icky. It was a wonder that he lasted with her when he left me right around when I was pregnant. True to her word, Melody was there in the morning and we immediately began brainstorming how to go about getting our revenge. Melody told me that she came to town earlier because of me. Turned out that Jasper had invited her to celebrate his birthday since she knew the truth. Apparently this was going to be a big celebration considering he also got a huge promotion, so he had invited people from work and his regular friends to attend. That explained her pre-booked tickets. So we planned out our revenge of humiliation for that day. On the day of his huge birthday party, Melody walked into Jasper's house, which was honestly fancy, and it made me even angrier. I walked behind Melody so Jasper didn't see me at first. He warmly greeted his mother before finally seeing me and turning pale. That reaction itself was satisfying for me. Melody saw his reaction too and innocently told him that she had run into me at the grocery store today and invited me over. Jasper tried to say something, but Melody quickly shut it down by claiming that I was family, so I deserved to be there. At some point, Sunny noticed me too, and her face turned into this scowl. I watched her pull Jasper to her side and ask him what I was doing there, and he just shrugged in response while looking at his mother. Eventually, Melody got everyone's attention and told them that she had something to say as Jasper's mother. Jasper looked nervous, but let her go on because everyone looked at her intently. She began to speak about how she struggled to raise Jasper as a single mom, and that she's glad to see where her son has reached in his career. I watched Jasper's shoulders relax because he thought that Melody was saying only nice things, until she wasn't. She began to talk about how he had let her down by cheating on me with my sister while I was heavily pregnant with his child. Of course, this got everyone whispering between themselves. Jasper's face paled while Sunny looked furious. To my surprise, someone else spoke up. That person was Jasper's boss. He asked Jasper if it was true, and I stepped in and said that it was. His boss told everyone about how much family and ethics mattered to him and the image of the company. He said he couldn't risk this coming out and ruining the company, so Jasper was going to be let go of. I was shocked. That was not what I was expecting to happen, yet it was satisfying to see Jasper's world come crashing down. Melody clinked her glass against Jasper's bosses and winked at him. She was just as happy with that decision. At that point, the atmosphere in the room got awkward and people started filing out. Once everyone left, Jasper and Sonny approached me. "You just had to show up, didn't you? Our lives were so much better when you weren't in it." "You will not speak to her that way. You guys deserve what you get and so much more. This is not how I raised you, Jasper." "I am your son. How could you do this to me?" "It's because you're my son that I even went this far. Although I no longer consider you my son, you've been disowned. When I die, Petal and her child will get everything I own." "That's not fair. You took away his job and now his inheritance too? How heartless are you?" "You have no right to say anything. Stay out of it. Our work here is done. Goodbye, you two." And with that, we made our exit. It felt amazing to get revenge on them. I was so grateful that Melody was on my side because I would never have gotten to feel so good. Yeah, I did manage to get over the hurt of Jasper and Sonny's actions, but to see them destroyed brought me actual joy. From what I know, Sonny took their child and left Jasper behind. Serves him right, if you ask me. I stopped checking in on them after that because I felt like that was enough revenge for me. In the meanwhile, Tia and I found a bigger and better apartment to move into with my daughter. Melody and I have much more regular contact and we fly out to meet each other pretty often. Life is finally looking a lot more colorful than before, and I can't wait to see what comes next. Hello everyone, my name's Ellie. I must give you a trigger warning because my story does have some abuse. I won't go into a hell of a lot of detail, but I will mention some instances to show you what my monster mother-in-law put me through. I still regret the day I married my now ex-husband Jake. I thought he was a good man. I thought that he came from a family that was respected. His mother, Chrissy, worked at a charitable foundation doing good for people. His father, Xavier, was a staunch businessman who took care of his family and made sure they were left wanting for nothing. Overall, they were a great family and anyone would be happy to be a member of their family. Initially, I was happy to be a part of their family too. It was after my marriage to Jake that everything changed. My mother-in-law, Chrissy, became abusive towards me. You see, Chrissy slowly started to do stuff to hurt me and emotionally control me. It started off with her stealing my glasses, phone and purse and hiding it so that I couldn't find it. Then she would laugh while I anxiously tried to find them out. Then she would intensively ask me to carry extremely hot pots that would burn me. One time she added shrimp juice to her chicken casserole so that I would develop an allergic reaction and miss my party. She made me cook for hours and then dumped everything on the floor. She continued to do stuff like this and then claimed that it was all accidental or she wasn't responsible for it. Hell, she even intentionally slipped me when I was at a family dinner. Why? So that I would embarrass myself and people would laugh at me. After months of receiving this treatment, I confronted Chrissy and asked my husband for help. I said, "You need to tell me what the hell your problem is, Chrissy. I'm tired of your behavior. I know you have been intentionally trying to hurt and embarrass me." "What the hell are you talking about, Ellie? How could you casually accuse me of something like that? God, are you jealous of me or something? Why the hell would I be jealous of someone like you, Chrissy? You are a freaking psycho. You literally don't have any reason to do what you are doing. You just enjoy hurting me. God, Ellie, you need to stop being so dramatic. Don't cause an unnecessary scene. My mother is an esteemed lady who works at a charitable foundation. She is the last person to hurt you. I was alarmed by my husband's nonchalant reaction to me being abused. Sure, Chrissy did hide her actions and pretended to be innocent, but Jake knew about the food tampering and intentionally displacing my stuff. I was surprised that he was blaming me for accusing his mother. I was horrified to hear what he said. I said, Jake, you need to do something about your mom. What she has been doing to me is borderline abusive. You saw how she intentionally makes food with stuff I'm allergic to. She knows I will suffer if I eat that. She doesn't even inform me about it. You are being ridiculous, Ellie. Mom would never do something like that. It's all in your head. Mom has been telling me that you are losing your mind by being jealous of her. I can see what's happening. What the hell, Jake? You know your mother has been tampering with my food and adding allergens to it. You know much more than that as well. Still, you want to take her side? It confused me as to why Jake was being such a doormat and completely disregarded my words about his mother. He was never like that. He loved me and cared about me, but now it felt like he didn't care about me at all. I felt like I was struck with a thunderbolt. I looked at him in shock and was trying to understand why he was behaving in such a way. That was when his mom said, Jake, your wife is crossing all limits. If she continues this behavior, we may have to kick her out. I always knew she was unworthy of our family, and now she is proving it. If you want to support your wife, you can leave as well. That will help us decide better what to do with your inheritance. Mom, I know Ellie is being crazy right now. I don't support her at all. I swear she will behave herself. I will make sure of it. If she doesn't, you can kick her out. I won't mind. I always knew you were the reasonable one, Jake. Thank God you can see past this crazy woman. I can't believe what a horrible woman she is, blaming me for her clumsiness and accusing me of being abusive. Leave her be, Mom. Don't worry. I'm on your side. She'll come to her senses once I talk to her properly. I then knew why Jake was going against me despite everything. You see, me and Jake were living with his parents because that's what they wanted. Jake worked in Xavier's company and was completely dependent on his dad for his income. He did give some assets as land and office complexes, but he didn't own a house. He wanted his father's assets and didn't want to piss off his mom for the same reason. Yes, my husband was a greedy and selfish prick. Xavier often stayed away for business, so he had no idea what was going on in his house. Hell, even I didn't know that my own husband would refuse to protect me. When we were alone, he said, "What the hell is wrong with you, Ellie? Are you trying to get us kicked out or something?" Seriously, Jake? That's what you have to say after I told you about your mom's abuse? What kind of a husband are you? The kind that knows how to secure his future. You are insane, Ellie. You can't just expect me to accuse my mom of such things. Plus, you pulled me into your problems. If she gets mad at me, do you think she will let Dad give me all of my inheritance? Is your inheritance more important than your wife, Jake? We don't need anything. Let's leave and buy our own house. We can afford it. It will be smaller than this place, but it will be ours. No one can abuse me there. Oh, please, Ellie. We cannot even dream of ever buying a house like this. I'm not going anywhere. You will put up with my mom and stop complaining. If you don't, I'm sure my mom will kick you out. Don't come crying to me then, because I won't help you. And That was the point when I knew that my marriage was over. Jake betrayed me in the worst way possible. He wasn't the man I thought he was. I felt helpless and didn't know what to do. Chrissy seemed to ramp up her abusive tactics after getting confirmation that Jake wouldn't protest. I felt like I was lost. I wanted to run away and just leave everything behind. But I didn't do that. I wasn't going to let Chrissy get away with her abuse. I came up with a plan. I was going to expose her. I was going to make sure people knew exactly what an evil woman Chrissy is. My plan was simple. I accessed the security cameras around the house and pulled all the recordings secretly. I found plenty of evidence of Chrissy's abuse against me. I made a compiled video of it and kept it aside for a very special day. Chrissy's birthday was coming up and we had a few guests invited for a small celebration. Xavier would be present as well. That would be my D-Day. The countdown has begun. I was out to destroy Chrissy. On the day of Chrissy's birthday, she was her usual jolly self. She acted like the sophisticated, caring woman that she is known to be. Surprisingly, she was even behaving well with me, probably because there were people around. I didn't say anything, but just went along with it. After the birthday cake was cut, I stood up and made an announcement. I said, "Thank you everyone for coming to celebrate my dear mother-in-law Chrissy. I'm sure you already know what a sweet and caring woman our birthday girl is. Now, I won't go into a lot of detail about her great deeds since many of you already know them. But since today is Chrissy's birthday, I thought I should show you exactly how much of a good person my dear mother-in-law is. As you can see, I have set up a screen to display the little video I made about my great mother-in-law. Enough with words now. I'll let you all see this dedicated video and make your wishes for our dear birthday girl." I play the video and let it do its job. I actually came prepared even if the worst were to happen. Some of my friends were one call away waiting for me to call them if something went wrong. After suffering for years at the hands of my monster mother-in-law, I was done being a doormat. I was standing up against her and exposing her two-faced self to everyone. I didn't care anymore. Not for my mother-in-law. Not for my husband. I was freaking done. The people saw the video I had painstakingly compiled over the last few months. They were horrified and dumbstruck. Chrissy and Jake stood in a corner, overcome by shock. Xavier reflected on their reaction. I didn't blame the man. He was away for days and didn't have an inkling of what was going on. When the video stopped playing, it was actually my father-in-law who spoke first. He said, "What the hell did I just watch, Chrissy?" "Xavier, it's not what it looks like. I'm not like that. These are fabricated videos taken out of context, Xavier." "Oh, really, Chrissy? They don't look fabricated to me. You want to tell me that my daughter-in-law went to the extent of fabricating videos? For what? To humiliate you?" Yes, that's right, Xavier. Ellie is doing this out of malice. I don't know how she managed to doctor those videos. I would never do something like this." Chrissy's nonchalant lies were getting to me. She wanted to tell everyone that her 1 year of abuse was all lies made by me. I didn't know how she thought people would still believe her after I made a full video of her antics. I calmly said, "So now you want to blame me for ruining your image, Chrissy? Let's do one thing then. Let's call the cops and let them decide if the videos are fabricated." "What nonsense, Ellie! The cops won't be bothered to listen to a lying witch like you." "Are you sure about that, Chrissy? You were saying that you don't realize that the stuff you were doing is downright illegal? Let's call the cops and find out." Chrissy looked more panicked at what I said. She never imagined that I would put her in this position. I had not only exposed her to her family, but also threatened to call the cops. She had never in her dreams imagined this happening. Her family was also pretty pissed off by what they saw. By a stroke of luck, I found out that some of Chrissy's friends were also present at the party. Friends who belonged to the charitable foundation where Chrissy worked. They were already giving her the stink eye while typing something on their phone. I assumed they were informing their work superiors about what they saw at the party. But Chrissy didn't notice that. She was busy trying to convince Xavier that she was being framed. She told him, "Xavier, do you hear her? She's threatening to call the cops on me. Ellie is threatening to get me in trouble. I'm telling you, she's delusional. Jake will agree with me." "Right, Jake. Care to tell me what the hell you were doing when your own wife was being abused under my roof?" "Dad, it's not as bad as it looks, Dad. Ellie is making a big deal out of nothing. Mom is a caring mother-in-law." "Seriously, Jake? You think this is how a caring mother-in-law behaves? Are you out of your mind? You were still defending your mom after I showed you proof that I wasn't lying." "Wait a minute. Ellie? You told Jake about the abuse and he didn't do anything?" I was glad Xavier caught that part, as did everyone else. They hadn't expected my husband to know the whole deal and not protect his wife. His damn wife, who he married out of love. No, his father's fortune and staying in a grand mansion mattered more to him than his own wife. He didn't want to upset his mom and risk his inheritance, but he didn't remember that his father didn't share his messed up ideas. Xavier was a man of morals and ethics, which also meant that he wasn't taking my abuse lightly. As I predicted, Xavier would be the one to help me get revenge against Chrissy. He was furious when I said, "I told Jake about the abuse, Xavier. He refused to believe me. He always told me that I was overreacting and accusing Chrissy of nothing. He told me that he wouldn't risk staying at this house by upsetting Chrissy." "And why didn't you come to me sooner, Ellie?" "I needed to collect proof and show everyone what a monster Chrissy is. From Jake's reaction, it became clear to me that I needed proof to show that I was being abused. Otherwise, no one would believe me or help me." "We all believe you, Ellie. I'm so sorry this happened to you. I'm sorry I failed to raise my son right. Ellie, as for Chrissy, I don't even know what to say. You can call the cops on her. I won't interfere." "What, Xavier? How could you say that to her? You will let her call the cops on your own wife? My life will be ruined, Xavier. Our reputation will be ruined." "Dad, you are not thinking straight. We don't need to call the cops. We're your family. Ellie is no one. You can't support this." "Shut your mouths, you two. After what you have done, you have no right to tell me how I should and shouldn't act. And don't call me family. Abusers and enablers can never be my family. As for my reputation, there won't be a spot on it. I will divorce Chrissy and disinherit Jake as soon as possible. I will have no ties with such monsters like you two." Chrissy and Jake were shocked to hear that. They didn't expect Xavier to decide that. Like always, they thought that they could spin the story to make me look like the bad guy, but no one believed them now. It was apparent from the cheer that the crowd made when Xavier made that declaration. Chrissy's friends had already left after giving me their support and promised that they would make Chrissy pay for her actions in their own way. They didn't even talk to Chrissy, and she was busy managing her very angry husband anyway. Chrissy and Jake cried to Xavier. They said, "Xavier, you are not thinking straight. You can't just abandon us on Ellie's word." "Her words are backed by proof, Chrissy. She didn't just tell me the truth, she showed it to me. Unlike my spineless son here, I actually do intend to do what's right by Ellie." "Dad, I'm sorry. I know I should have listened to Ellie. Believe me, Dad, I had no idea that Mom was really—" "That is bullshit, Jake. I showed you proof once, but still you didn't do anything. You didn't want to jeopardize your inheritance. I don't even know what I ever saw in you. It's freaking funny that your father cares about me more than you. Xavier, If you hadn't supported me today, I don't know what I would have done. I support you wholeheartedly, Ellie. My imbecile son doesn't deserve you, and he doesn't deserve the inheritance that he wants so badly. It's only fitting that I disinherit him now. Dad, no, you can't do this to me. Dad, I'm your son. Dad. Don't call me Dad, Jake. I don't want to hear that from you. I'm done being an ATM to two useless people who are nothing but a waste of space on this earth. Jake, since you have turned as greedy and fake as your mother, you can go with her after our divorce. You won't have a home here anymore. You're not serious about this, Xavier. You are saying this just to hurt me. You won't divorce me, I know that. We've been together for almost 3 decades. You won't do this to me. Yes, we have been together for almost 3 decades, but I had no idea that my own wife could be such a vile and monstrous person. After what I witnessed today, I don't want to be anywhere near you, let alone stay married to you. Chrissy froze like she was thunderstruck. Jake was already crying and repeatedly apologizing to Xavier. Still, I had no apology. It was funny just how today's event showed everyone where Chrissy and Jake's priorities lie. They only cared about money and reputation. They didn't care that they abused a person and let it continue for a year. I was disgusted with the useless man I called my husband. He was more upset at the news of being disinherited than hearing that his own wife was being abused. It was pathetic. Chrissy now restarted her crying and begging for forgiveness. Not to me, of course. She said to Xavier, Xavier, look, I know I made a mistake, but I swear it will never happen again. Don't take such a huge step without thinking, Xavier. I'm your wife. Can't you forgive me for once? Mom is right, Dad. We know we messed up, but we will make it up to you. We are ashamed of ourselves. This will be a wake-up call for me too. Please don't abandon us for one mistake. Please forgive me this time. You two have some nerve asking for forgiveness. You didn't even apologize to the main victim here, who is Ellie. You are apologizing to me because I have the power to make you bankrupt and homeless. Not once have you ever looked at Ellie with remorse or apologies to her for your horrible actions. So, Xavier had noticed what I had noticed. He saw how they disregarded me and were more concerned with Xavier. He knew that they didn't want to end up on the streets after having a life like that. As soon as Xavier pointed out the irony, Chrissy and Jake started to pester me with their apologies. It was so fake and desperate that it made everyone even angrier. I was scrambling away from them as if their touch would pollute me. I wanted those monsters nowhere near me anymore. I said, Don't bother with your fake apologies anymore. I know you were sorry only because you got caught and are now facing consequences. I am not that doormat who came into this family a year ago. I know your fake faces. Ellie, come on, don't do this to us. We made a mistake. I should have protected you. I'm so sorry I didn't. We love each other. We can look past this. Let's try to forgive each other. We are family, Ellie. Yes, we are family, Ellie dear. I'm so sorry I was such a bad mother-in-law. I will get help and get better. I promise I will never do this to you again. If you just forgive us, we can go back to being the perfect family we were. I laughed, guys. I laughed when Chrissy and Jake said their piece. It was hilarious that they called it the perfect family. I don't know which perfect family abuses their own daughter-in-law. I don't know which perfect husband lets his own mother torture his wife. Their fake apologies were just like jokes to me at this point. I did feel a little powerful having them at my feet begging for forgiveness, knowing that my decision would affect and change their life for the worse. I gave them a small smile and said, You must be delusional if you think I consider you family. You are nothing but leeches. You came to apologize because you have your future at stake. Well, guess what? I don't forgive you. You are not my family. Before you even pull the husband's card, Jake, let me be clear. I will be divorcing you. That's final. No, Ellie, listen to me. I did what I did to protect us. I wanted to protect our future. I love you. You let your mom torture me because you wanted to secure our future. I told you multiple times that we don't need your parents' money. I wanted to go get our own place to get away from your evil mother. But no, greed made you stay here and overlook everything your mom did. Well, it amounted to nothing for him. I will be disinheriting him whether he likes it or not. Even if you take him back, Ellie, I won't be having him around anymore. He can go freak off to where his mom goes. I am firm in my decision too, Xavier. Jake, we are done. You are getting a divorce and I will be going after half of your assets. You will pay for enabling your mother. Jake and Chrissy couldn't say anything more. They kept crying and saying sorry over and over again. You can imagine my satisfaction with this situation. I truly got my vengeance and protected myself. I called my friends who gathered my things and drove me to their home. Jake tried to stop me, but with one stern word from Xavier, he shut up real quick. I didn't even look at Chrissy because I wanted to forget her nasty face as soon as possible. I didn't go to the cops with the video. With Xavier divorcing Chrissy and Jake getting disinherited, I didn't need to spend money on lawyers to get them punished. They were in deep shit anyway. Xavier kicked them both out of the house. They came begging to my friend's place to try and stay with me. Xavier had an ironclad prenup, which meant Chrissy wasn't getting a penny out of him. As I said, her friends from the charitable foundation exposed her face to everyone at work and got her fired. As for Jake, his job at his dad's company was gone, and so were his dreams of getting a big inheritance. Now, their only refuge was me, who had both a job and money. Chrissy was so freaking shameless that she thought I would help her because, in her words, I was family. Well, I promptly kicked them out and threatened them with a restraining order if they ever contacted me again. As the months passed, I managed to settle into my own place. I was actually renting and waiting for my divorce to be finalized. Jake had a few assets that were obviously getting split between us. He didn't have a prenup in place because he thought I wouldn't be strong enough to leave him. Now I shudder to think that he could have easily turned abusive like his mom if I had stayed longer. Anyway, I did purchase a small flat after the divorce got finalized. Jake gave in easily because I threatened to go to the cops with the abuse videos. Xavier also did the same and got a smooth divorce. Jake ended up working 2 jobs to support his mom, who refused to work. He once reached out to me to complain about how his mom was making him miserable and he wanted to come back to me. I laughed in his face and told him to enjoy his new life before hanging up. It was a long revenge for me that kept going on even after I stopped doing anything. Currently, I'm living a good life, and so is Xavier. But Jake and Chrissy are suffering and getting a good dose of karma for their actions. Hello, people. This is Nessa writing her story. I'll tell you how I dealt with my husband Sean and mother-in-law Anita when they reveal themselves to be mooching parasites. My story will start just before my wedding to Sean. Sean and I were dating for 4 years before we got married. He was a very loving and affectionate boyfriend who left no room to complain. To be honest, I was head over heels in love with him and didn't ever want to leave him. But there was one problem that always loomed over my head: his relationship with his mom. Sean was very close to his mom, Anita. That is fine by me. I like it when a man is connected to his family. But Sean kind of always put his mom in a higher position than me. His mom didn't like me at all and got away with insulting me regularly. Sean did apologize to me about her behavior later, but he never stood up for me or even protected me from his mom. We had multiple talks about Anita, but nothing came out of it. Anita continued her horrible behavior towards me. Despite all of this, I agreed to marry Sean. He proposed to me after 4 years and I was super happy. Like I said, I was in love and didn't see the red flags back then. Now, the trouble started when Sean sat me down immediately after the proposal to say this. Nessa, something has been bothering me for a while. I think I would need your help. What's the matter, Sean? Tell me what's going on. I promise I will help you as much as I can. It's just that my mom recently acquired a ton of debt. She can be a bit of a spendthrift and landed a lot of credit card bills, plus with her recent medical problems, she is drowning in debt. Oh, that's very unfortunate. So what are you thinking of doing? There is no way I can help her, Nessa. It's a lot of money. She will be selling her childhood home to get rid of her bills. I don't want that, Nessa. I wanted to buy the house from her, but you know, I have bad credit. The bank won't allow it. So I was thinking if you could buy the house. Wait, what? You want me to buy your house? Please think about it, Nessa. We're getting married now as well. It will be just perfect. You can take a mortgage since you have the money. At that time, I did feel a little uncomfortable saying yes. Buying a house was a big deal. He was right, though. I could afford it. I thought about it for a week and then said yes. The house was gorgeous and the price was a little low because of Anita's urgency, so I went ahead and bought the place. Since I alone was paying for the house, I only put my name on the deed. Sean didn't protest, so all good, right? No. After we got married, Sean suddenly moved his mom into the house. By then, we had been married for like 6 months. It was just so out of the blue that I freaked out when I saw Anita casually sitting in my living room in her PJs. I was shocked, but acted calm. Hey, Anita, are you visiting? Will you stay for dinner? I'm not visiting. I'm going to live in this house from now on. My son has told me that he has made me part owner of the house, so I don't need to stay in a rented apartment any longer. That cramped place wasn't my style anyway. Now, the real mistress of the house is back. I don't understand this. Sean told you that you are a co-owner of this house? Yes. So you better get used to having me around. I won't tolerate your nonsense under my roof. Since you will be living rent-free here, you need to do as I say from now on. I was shocked at the words Anita said. My mind was spinning. I had no idea why Sean had made up such a big lie to Anita. It was ridiculous and outrageous. I went straight to my bedroom to confront Sean. I said, Sean, why is your mom saying that she is going to live here from now on? And she is saying that she is a co-owner of this house. What the hell is going on? I'm so sorry, Nessa. I lied and told Mom that I was the one who bought the house. Mom was complaining about living in a rented apartment, so I brought her here. She's having money issues again. She's my mom. I can't abandon her. Why the hell would you lie to her, Sean? I'm sorry, okay? I didn't want my mom to think that I was a disappointment. Asking you to buy the house was shameful enough for me. Please don't push it anymore. I will tell her the truth after some time. Please don't kick her out. Being the doormat that I am, I allowed Anita to stay. What can I say? I was stupid and in love. I didn't want my husband to feel humiliated, so I went along with him and pretended that he and Anita owned the home. I never should have done that. Anita turned my life into a living hell. She was freaking awful. The woman somehow got meaner because she believed I was living in her house. She expected me to do all the chores and contribute to the household. She wasn't giving us a penny for herself. Instead, I was working, cleaning the house, paying the bills. The only thing that Anita did was cook. Even then, she went out of her way to cook things I don't eat or stuff I'm allergic to. So I often ended up cooking for myself after disinfecting every inch of the kitchen. I knew Anita was doing this on purpose. Sean never said anything about his mom. We fought and fought, but Sean refused to put his mom in place. 2 years passed, and Sean still didn't tell his mom about the house. I was growing tired of Anita's abuse and Sean's lack of support. Just when things couldn't be any worse, Anita made the most ridiculous demand I have ever heard in my life. One day when I was back from work, I found Anita and Sean waiting for me with grim faces. When I looked at them with curiosity, Anita said, "You need to sit down, Nessa. I have something important to tell you." "Okay, what is this about? You look serious." "We have discussed our living expenses and found out that you are not contributing enough to the house." Now, this was something that I hadn't expected at all. I paid a decent amount for the household expenses. Sean and I paid the same amount since we had almost equal salaries. So I have no idea why Anita suddenly thought that I wasn't doing enough. What was more ironic was the fact that Anita wasn't paying a cent towards any household expenses. So it was natural that I was confused. I said, "I don't understand. How am I not contributing enough?" "We are a 3-person household, Nessa. We have lots of bills to pay. Your share is just not enough for everything. Do you expect us to host you for free?" "Well, no, Anita, I don't expect anything like that, but I am already paying money. Me and Sean pay the same amount." "That's not enough, Anita. From now on, you need to hand over half of your salary to me. I will take care of all the household expenses, since Sean said you are bad with money." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This woman wanted half of my salary? She demanded that I pay half? She acted like it wasn't even up for discussion? I was just shocked. Now I knew why Anita had run herself into debt. Still, it didn't make sense why I would be giving her money, and I didn't know what Sean had to say about this. I said, "I don't think you can just demand something like that, Anita. That is rude and unfair. Sean, what do you say about this? You know our living situation better than me." "I think my mom's right, Nessa. You don't contribute to the house at all while earning so much money. It's sort of unfair on all of us, especially on Mom, who does all the cooking and cleaning." "What the hell, Sean? I do give you some money for house bills and utilities." "Yeah, but that is barely enough. This is a 3-person house and expenses are mounting. It's only fair that you contribute more." "That's right. We house you for free anyway. You need to pull your weight and do what is right. Why would you even need so much money? It would be better for you to give me half of your salary. That is the only way this house would run smoothly." I was baffled by the conversation we were having. I had no idea why they were demanding more money from me when I was already paying more than we should have. I knew it was Anita's idea to get half of my salary. There was no freaking way she would only spend it on the bills and groceries. I was pretty sure she would be spending it on herself and writing it off as house items. And knowing Sean, he wouldn't even let me ask Anita for receipts or explanations about how she was spending my money. What surprised me more was the fact that Sean was completely in support of his freaking mother. Sean was the only one who knew the fact that I was paying the house mortgage. I thought that he would shut his mom down with an excuse since he didn't want her to find out about the house ownership, but he never once stood in support of me. It was at this point that I realized how bad I had messed up my life. I had married a gold-digging family. Sean wasn't going to tell his mom about the house. He had planned to keep his finances a secret while taking out as much cash from me as possible. The moment I understood the reality, my mind went blank. After a while, I was furious. I knew that this drama needed to stop right now. So I looked at Sean and said, "Sean, you know well enough what I'm contributing to this house. Are you still going to allow your mom to speak to me like that and demand half of my money? Your contribution to the house is negligible. You don't pay rent and live here mooching off us. I won't allow you to freeload off me, Nessa. Things run differently in my house. You need to pay to stay here." "I don't think so, Anita. I don't need to pay any kind of rent or give you half of my salary." "What do you mean?" "Sean, are you going to tell her the full truth, or am I?" Sean looked a little nervous. I could tell that he knew what was coming. He was already panicking, knowing that I was pissed off. He had expected me to stay quiet and just do as he and his mother said. Well, I might be many things, but I am not a complete doormat. I wasn't going to let anyone take advantage of me and use me for their own benefit. And I was done with this family's parasitic ways. I simply went to my room, got some papers out, and I said, "First of all, Anita, this is not your house. It is mine. So you need to stop saying that this is your house." "What the hell are you talking about? My son bought this house for me. I am the owner of this house." "Well, if that's what he told you, then your son is a freaking liar. This house belongs to me. I bought it before we got married." No. That's impossible. You're lying." "You think I'm lying, Anita? Tell me, do you have papers to prove that you own the house?" "Well, no. Sean said he was keeping it safe for me." "Again, Anita, your son is a freaking liar. He only said those things to please you. When this house was up for sale, your son begged me to buy the house. He knew I had the money and the means to get a mortgage, so I bought the house but didn't tell anyone because Sean didn't want anyone to know. All papers went through agents, so you never saw my name come up. Sean later lied and said that he had purchased the house and put your name on it. None of you two own this place. I do." Anita looked shocked when I revealed the reality to her. She had never imagined that I was the complete owner of the house. Sean had her convinced that he bought the house and made Anita co-owner. Well, all those were lies, of course. He was lying to Anita to make himself look better. He was trying to take all the credit and all my money. I wasn't going to let him do that. I had already made a decision. I didn't care anymore. The truth needed to come out. Dear Anita couldn't just comprehend what I said. The fact that her son was a lying piece of shit was just too far out for her. She refused to believe what I was saying. She looked furious and said, "I don't believe a word you're saying, Nessa. You are lying to make me feel bad and turn me against my son." "Really, Anita? Are you that delusional? Why would I want you to hate my own husband? But if you think I'm making up lies, here, have a look at these. These are the papers of the house deed." "Show me. Show me right now. I'm sure you're lying." I showed Anita the papers of the house deed. She read them thoroughly with her eyes going very large with every word. Meanwhile, Sean was just standing there looking miserable. I didn't even want to look at him for longer than a second. When Anita was done, she had tears in her eyes. Still, these were the words coming out of her mouth. "I don't believe this. These papers are fake. This is all fake. You're trying to trick me. This house is mine." "No, it's not, Anita. This is my house. The papers have the stamp and everything. You clearly saw that the house deed says I am the sole owner of this place. If you still don't believe me, you can ask your son. He's right here." "Sean, what the hell is this woman saying? Is this really Nessa's house? Did you freaking lie to me?" Sean stayed quiet while looking at his feet. He couldn't bring himself to say the words that he had lied to his mommy dearest. His mommy dearest was begging him to tell her the truth. His silence told Anita all she needed to know. Suddenly she started to cry while asking her son to be truthful. By then, I had had enough.